ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 269. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
That episode is 200 plus the sex number.
It is 200 plus the sex number. That's the one. We do have housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
I did want to, obviously, as always, you can jump to the episode topic at hand if you want to check for the timestamps in the show description.
Right.
But also, I wanted to mention, we do have a lot of wonderful people that support us at patreon.com/retrowarriors.
Indeed.
But what I've not said on, I think, one of the main shows in a long time is that people that are our patrons get access to Cinema Rogues and Talking Wizards, which there are two Patreon shows, and actually everyone can listen to Cinema Rogues. Yeah. But I did want to say that for people that don't know, those Patreon shows, we don't have any statistics or information or reviews or anything for them the way we do the main show, because they're not on a main feed that's put into podcast aggregators.
Right.
So if anyone ever has any feedback or requests or anything about Cinema Rogues or Talking Wizards, please let us know that you're listening and or enjoying those shows, because we put them out there for people.
Right.
But those particular ones, we don't really have an avenue for feedback the way we do for the main show.
Right.
So I did just kind of want to throw that out there.
We have the Discord, and if you're in the Discord, feel free to give feedback in any channel. Just shout it into the void, and we'll hear it.
Just in the rules channel, yell in all caps, "I love Kevin James."
Right.
And then we'll know you're talking about Talking Wizards.
Right.
Which is... Also, our producer Guy is going to be on this episode.
Yay.
After the ending theme for the after party that he does once a month. So please stay tuned for that. As far as my week,
yes, sir.
I finally started playing more Dragon Quest XI.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
It had been almost a year since I had last played it.
Yeah.
Because my last save was from 2019.
Right.
And it's still good. I finished the I guess you could say the main story.
Right. The standard ending.
Yeah, I got the standard ending and thoroughly enjoyed it. Very fun. And now I'm starting the post-game content, which is very weird for post-game content. Mm-hmm. And I was expecting it to be more vestigial than it is.
Right.
Because I mean, spoilers on like a several-year-old game now, but after the main story ends, it kind of is like, hey, there's more main story. You can stop here if you want. It's a nice break point,
right?
But there's definitely a lot more stuff.
Yeah, like this could be the end of the story, but if you want to keep playing, we've got a whole extra story packed for you.
I was expecting more like Pokemon post game, where it's like, now go grind your Pokemon and fight more Pokemon, and that you did it. You know, like there's no more
like,
real
story. Even in most Dragon Quest games, the post game is like, here's a bonus dungeon where a bonus boss will do a thing. But no, it's like full on extra story in Dragon Quest XI.
Oh yeah, and throws you right into more cinematics and voiced cutscenes and just tons and tons of stuff.
That's why the Dragon Quest community refers to it as Act 3 of a 3-act game, because it's not really post-game so much, just more game after the first ending.
And I will say, so between the acts, between Act 2 and 3, it does kind of reach this moment where it's like, okay, once you get here, you're in it to win it. You're not going back. Right. And I have taken that plunge.
Yeah.
And started full on into Act 3, and I'm a little ways into it. I don't know that I'm going to stick with it through to completion. In the next few weeks. Right. But I do intend to go back to it.
Nice.
And it's interesting. It's funny how we talk a lot about. I feel like you and I try very hard to curate a public persona as far as what kind of games we like.
Right.
If only because the games we like comes up a lot in conversation on the show, and so we try to be very clear. Like, this is what I like. So that it's more easily understood by people to help them understand our point of view. and I say things like, I don't love long games with tons of post-game content. I'm not huge into JRPGs or story. And then there's always an exception that rolls along and makes me feel like a lying asshole. Like I'm sitting here enthralled by these cutscenes in Dragon Quest XI, like shushing everyone in the room, like, be quiet, Serena's talking, you know. So I guess my point is that I'm a fraud. I think
that's true. That's fair.
I mean, my real point is that there are exceptions to every rule, and Dragon Quest XI is an exceptionally good game.
Yeah, we work very hard to convince everybody that you exclusively play bad dudes, and I exclusively play hentai light gun games.
There's hentai light gun games?
I have no idea, but I bet somebody has made one.
Now I would actually play one of those. I think that sounds fun. I mean, obviously you'd just be shooting their clothes off of them, which that's.
Well, now you've just written the game. If it's not out there.
Anyway, that's all I've really been up to game-wise.
Like normal, you're just sitting around playing JRPGs, and I've been playing a brawler.
Of course.
No, I've been
opposite day.
Yeah, I've been playing Battletoads, the new Battletoads, which I don't remember if we mentioned it all on the last episode or not.
We did.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it
briefly.
came out just before the last episode.
Wait, no,
just
did
after.
we? We mentioned it on After Hours. I don't know that it's been mentioned on an episode.
Yeah.
I picked it up and dropped it so quickly, and then you've continued playing it.
Right. I couldn't remember if we addressed it at all in the last episode. But if we didn't, I would say that my initial reaction was meh, because it's kind of a meh brawler. And I really didn't like the story or voice acting for the whole first stage.
Yeah.
But slowly the story and voice acting has grown on me in the dumb humor department.
Yeah.
The gameplay, the brawler gameplay, I still don't really like. It just feels very samey. It's you just keep going into another room and then beating up guys, and then go into another room and beating up guys. The further I get, the less of the guys I'm seeing where you have to fight them in a specific way to proceed.
Maybe if after every level you watched 2 hours of an anime and then came back to it, it would feel more like the games you're used to.
Right. No, the thing is, all of the non-brawler levels, I'm really enjoying. Like all that part, I'm enjoying the heck out of. But the actual brawler levels are kind of dry.
It does. Again, I've not played nearly as much as you, but it did kind of feel like it's kind of a genre that has fallen out of favor, but the variety game genre, I guess you could call it, which is lots of different genres and doing different things shoved into one game.
Right.
It definitely seems to fit that mold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like they were trying to do a little bit of everything. But it's not bad. If I had paid for it, I'd be upset. But
really, you'd be upset. It's not $20 of good for you.
$20 would have been fine.
I think it's $20.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Then yeah, it's probably fine. I thought it was a full $60 game, and at which point I would have been very disappointed.
Yeah.
But at 20, it's probably fine. That's probably worth it. Also, I installed Adrenaline on my PS Vita, on my Vita TV rather. Adrenaline is a full PSP front end that you can install on the Vita. You know how you can play PSP games on your Vita, and they just run in a PSP mode, essentially. Well, this just installs the actual firmware from a PSP in that PSP mode, so that you have the full menu and full functionality, which, along with it, restores the ability to play every PSP game, not just the supported ones.
Right.
So once I had done that, I just copied all of the PSP games that I dumped from my PSP discs onto my Vita. So now I can play them on my TV, and they look great because when I plugged my PSP itself into my TV, it was letterboxed and pillarboxed into what I believe you called a mail slot view.
Yeah, classic mail slot view.
It looked terrible. But playing it on my Vita, it's all stretched out to the full screen, and my first thought was, this is great. I can finally enjoy my favorite PSP games. But what I'm learning is, when you play PSP games on a 55-inch 4K TV, you realize how terrible they look. Like, some of them are god-awful.
Yeah.
The 2D games are fine. Like I was playing Final Fantasy 1 and 4 and those looked great. But then I tried Rondo of Blood, and man, I
can't imagine that's going to scale great.
Oh God, the 3D version Rondo of Blood is just terrible looking. Oh, don't do that. Don't play that. Also, I was playing around with the Citra 3DS emulator, which I hadn't messed with in a few years. So I went back to it, and I was shocked to see how well it ran several of my games. I threw Ocarina of Time and Link Between Worlds and stuff like that at it, and those all ran full speed. Dragon Quest VII was a little slow at times, but it's nice to be able to have them on my PC. It's still not my preferred method just because of the 2 screens and the touch screen and all the other nonsense that comes along with DS and 3DS. But it is nice to know from a preservation standpoint that if something were to if something happened to all my systems, and since I was dealing with DS stuff anyway, I also updated Twilight Menu on my proper DS or on my 2DS and threw a ton of DS games on there so that I could play them on the real system where they feel better.
Where you immediately set it down and didn't actually play anything.
No, actually, I was playing my 2DS a lot this last week for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Weird. Just so you've been playing brawlers and handhelds, and I've been playing JRPGs.
Yeah, exactly.
All
Just
right,
like
then.
normal.
It's fucking backwards land. That's where we've ended up here. Let's knock out some news because there's been a lot. I feel like I forget every year. Every year it happens. Nothing happens in the summer, and then the second fall hits. Tons of shit starts happening.
Right.
And it's it's just about here in I think it starts in 2 weeks.
Dang.
Yeah, it's it's coming quick. Heck, it's already Labor Day weekend.
Dang.
First up, I Am 8-Bit and Microsoft announced a Battletoads replica cart for $99 in anticipation of the Xbox One revival, and it, of course, immediately sold out.
I can't imagine paying $99 for NES Battletoads.
I assume it was just a bunch of GameStop employees that were sick of getting asked if they had Battletoads or not.
Yeah, I could see that.
Sony claims that the new DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5 will accurately convey the feeling of anti-lock brakes in Gran Turismo 7.
Sure. Who was demanding that?
I guarantee you Gran Turismo fans were demanding that.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But I can't say I understand enough about racing sims to understand why. But good, cool. More features for them. Good. Yeah. That's a good thing.
Right.
More Epic v. Apple stuff. Apple threatens to block Unreal Engine. Court overrules that. Apple quotes Tim Sweeney asking for special privilege. Epic shows the rest of the email that specifically didn't ask for that. Microsoft and Google issue statements of support for the Unreal Engine on App Store, etc., etc., etc. This is going to be a long, drawn-out legal battle, but just know that Epic and Apple still are not friends.
Yeah.
I just don't even care.
I feel so bad for these giant multi-billion-dollar companies and their little spat.
Yeah, it reaches a point where it's like I enjoy watching it because I just like seeing them shit on each other, but then I'm also not, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like watching two people you don't like beat each other up. You're like, I mean, good, but I don't care, like at the same time. PSO2 hits 1 million players worldwide.
Weird how that happens when you release a game internationally.
Isn't that strange?
Bizarre.
But good for them. I keep meaning to boot the game up and give it another, a real shot on PC, but I just keep forgetting. But it's been installed for a couple weeks now, so maybe one day.
It's a huge install, too.
Suikoden's spiritual successor, Ayuden Chronicles, ends its Kickstarter drive at $4.5 million, the third highest funded game in Kickstarter history, behind Shenmue 3 at $6.3 million and Bloodstained at $5.5 million.
Dang.
So good for them. The game looks good. I think we don't really have a ton to go on yet, but cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully it turns out.
I look forward to getting my copy in 2 years or whatever. Maybe 3.
Developers of the original PSO detail their Diablo-style isometric prototype that nearly released in 1999 and would have made me a very happy camper. I can say that much for sure.
I wish they had any kind of pictures or screenshots or something of it, but unfortunately they just had to describe it. But they clearly were taking some heavy influence from Diablo. And I've always said that PSO felt like it took some influence from Diablo. And people told me I was crazy.
In the day, I would have vehemently disagreed with you for sure. Yeah, but it does share some major key elements, although very few of them are visual. So I can see how.
Yeah, certainly nothing visual, but things like you team up with some people, you go into a dungeon, you look for loot, you finish the dungeon, you repeat.
Right. It is a video game.
Right.
You can play it.
Also true.
There are graphics. It's got a lot of similarities.
I don't know if there's exactly graphics in PSO. You can see like 3 feet in front of your face before the draw distance pops out.
Upcoming DMG Game Boy game, Where Is My Body, reached $28,000 on Kickstarter to launch later this year.
Weird.
So, cool. I don't know what it's about, but all right,
I think it's supposed to be a horror game. I can't tell.
Monster World 4 to get full remake treatment as Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World on PS4 and Switch.
Now, I'm happy about this. I'm very excited because
Same.
I love Wonder Boy. I love Monster World games. I want to see more of them. I'm confused.
We did an episode on this one, didn't we? It was a good game.
I think we did. This sounds right.
Yeah, I remember playing it. Yeah. I don't remember anything that happened, but I remember playing it. It was basically Diablo.
Yeah, it's pretty much a Diablo game. It does feel weird that they would have named it Wonder Boy, though, considering Wonder Boy isn't in the game.
Yeah, it's at this point, it's almost tradition to fuck up the naming of the games in this franchise. Yeah. So all right, I can't even get upset.
They could have, because there's been Wonder Boy and there's been Monster World. Now there's been Monster Boy. They should have just called it Boy World.
That Boy World is a totally different kind of game, Saturn.
Oh, okay, my bad.
That we're not allowed to talk about. More reports claim that a new model of Switch will launch early 2021, most of them claiming that it will be a Switch Pro of some type.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. Based on Nintendo's history, we know that in air quotes, better model Switch is coming at some point. Sure. We just know it is.
Right.
So technically, if you predict it every day until it happens, were you really right? Or were you just making a good guess repeatedly?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like people are just poking at the wall and hoping they hit the right thing eventually.
I mean, it's like coming out with a leak that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Technically, it might not, but it's probably going to happen.
Right, eventually.
So I mean, the people have been predicting a Switch Pro since the first year the Switch was out.
Since before the Switch came out.
I don't remember the ones before, but I would not be shocked in the slightest.
I do remember hearing about a possible upgraded model alongside it before they fully revealed what the Switch model was going to be.
Right.
Because the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X were still being rumbled at the time, and everybody was saying, the NX will also have an enhanced model.
It'll be the NXX Pro. And then it'll be Matt Hoffman's XXX Pro. Unity announces they'll be listed on public stock markets soon. IPO filings show that over 50% of the top games across all platforms use Unity, and more than 70% of top developers are listed as licensees.
And this story came out right while Epic and Apple were fighting about Unreal Engine on the App Store, which had to make Unity look even more attractive to some people.
Unity is huge.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of those things where I forget about Unity because they're not tied to a company that really does a lot of other things.
Right.
It's just Unity, but then Unreal is tied to Epic. Right. So you know them as Epic. That also makes the Unreal Engine.
Right.
You just don't hear a lot about Unity.
Right. But they do, a ton of games are made with that engine, though.
True. CD Projekt Red confirms that Cyberpunk will have DLC and it'll be free.
That's nice of them.
When they announced that, I was like, it felt weird because the term DLC doesn't imply that something's going to be paid anyway, but when you hear it, you just assume it's going to cost money.
Well, didn't the DLC for The Witcher, well, did that have a cost to it? I don't remember.
There were one or two expansions for Witcher 3. Okay. If I'm being honest, I don't know. I bought the big fancy Game of the Year pack for like $15 and never looked back, and so I couldn't say. But good on them. CD Projekt Red continues to make the right moves.
The pro-consumer
in my
moves,
opinion.
anyway.
Yeah. The Lord of the Rings Gollum is a, quote, Prince of Persia-like stealth game with a branching narrative.
Okay.
First of all, how many years has it been since a Prince of Persia game has even fucking come out?
8?
Second of all, if you're going to make a stealth game, why would you compare it to Prince of Persia, which has not had a game even this generation? Like,
yeah. Well,
it's just a weird. And also, who really wants a Prince of Persia Gollum game with a branching narrative?
Well, don't we know how Gollum's narrative ends?
There is a book. You might have heard about it. It's called The Lord of the Rings, and it's pretty detailed on Smeagol's character and what happens to him. But I don't know. Maybe it's alternate history Middle-earth, and you can take the ring and go become a Dark Lord as Gollum. The more I say, the more I want to play it. So I'm just going to stop making fun of it.
You take the ring and play Prince of Persia with it.
Yeah. Developer Frogwares announces that their Cthulhu-based game, The Sinking City, is being delisted on PS4, Xbox One, Steam, and Epic due to a contract violation with publisher Big Ben Interactive. DRM-free copies will be sold directly on their website, and it will still be available via Origin or Switch eShop.
That's if you read what happened, it's pretty depressing. Their publisher pretty much ran wild with the IP and kept trying to credit it to themselves, including licensing it out to make a tabletop game based on it without ever asking the IP holder. It's pretty insane.
I feel like it might just be because I'm paying attention these days, but I feel like we hear stories like this more and more often.
Yeah, I feel like now that the former indie scene is starting to mature a little bit and having to pair with bigger publishers to get games out, we're hearing more stories about former indie publishers or developers getting screwed over by publishers.
Yeah. It kind of feels like we're on the back half of the sort of indie renaissance that happened, where a lot of these companies, because they are smaller, are having these issues.
Right.
Sony briefly published a PS4 game called PXG4, PS4 Full Standard Game Disc Game Test 4 product with an icon calling itself Whale, 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 what do we have here? The program launched a test environment for server development integration and referenced both PS4 and PS5. How does Sony fuck these things up so bad?
My favorite part is that the end of the game title has prod in parenthesis, and anybody who works in any kind of development knows you never test anything in the production environment. That's why you have a test server, so that you never test anything in prod. You have a test server, and not only did they make a prod test, they published it.
What's fascinating to me is Sony, between literally not knowing what to do with credit cards and basically giving them away to the internet for free.
Anyone who wants them.
Between seeming to never have learned how to develop an operating system worth of shit.
No. Or a network interface.
And publishing and putting random things on their service and screwing up the PSN all the time. Sony is a massive corporation. They're humongous.
Yeah.
How are they still doing? Do they not have safeguards? Is it just like 12 guys in a warehouse? What is happening?
It's that guy from the PS3 commercials. It's just him.
And finally, Sega announces that the Sega Ages line will no longer receive new titles in Japan, but will continue to support retro releases, which is a pretty big bummer. I really kind of hoped the Sega Ages line would be bigger than it was, because the few Sega Ages games I've got are great.
Yeah, and they seemed like real quality titles. I'm guessing they just don't want to keep pouring that much budget into retro re-releases.
I feel like it's one of those things where they are a lot more buried on the Switch than Sega probably anticipated they would be, because of the Switch's problem with too much software.
Yeah.
We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on the topic at hand. This week we are talking TurboGrafx/PC Engine on a budget. So as far as a synopsis, we're really... It's kind of a weird episode, because obviously we're going to have to cover the TurboGrafx and PC Engine hardware so that you understand what we're talking about. But this episode is specifically for people looking to get into the TurboGrafx scene, but not spend a fortune, or maybe you do want to spend a fortune, and we'll tell you how you can do that in the best way, too. As far as listener feedback, we did get a couple of write-ins. First up is Elk Neodafs, who says, as a Toys R Us kid in the early 90s, my friends and I would often hang out in the store and play TurboGrafx-16 demo kiosks installed alongside the new Neo Geo AES kiosk. What a time to be alive. This was, of course, in the shady corner of the store, away from the well-lit Sega and Nintendo aisle.
Right.
The chatter on the playground was about which one of these weirdo consoles you would get if you could, because as a kid, buying into a brand new console's ecosystem was something you just couldn't up and do, especially for lesser-known brands like NEC Home Electronics. 30 years later, my fiance got me the TurboGrafx-16 Mini for a gift, and I couldn't be happier with it. $100 for over 50 games seems like a fine price for a careful budget. And with the promise of Project Phobos, you'll eventually be able to add more. And hey, that's free, but I would never tell you how to do it. Because that's illegal.
That is. It's totally illegal.
Probably not. Tamachan87 writes in, the last trip I made to Japan, I went with a mission. The good boys from Retro Warriors never shut the fuck up. I mean, talk admirably of the PC Engine and TurboGrafx, so I went to join the club and get a beautiful white tobacco sunburst PC Engine. I searched high, I searched low, and finally found two, a standalone PC Engine core graphics and a suitcase PC Engine with CD add-on.
Nice.
Holy shit, those were expensive. I instead spent less money on a Sega Saturn, a fistful of games, and a Pi 3 with a micro SD card. No regrets. PC Engine is expensive, so unless you're a hardcore dead set on owning an original physical machine, I would get on my knees and beg you to buy a PC Engine Mini or a Raspberry Pi instead.
Right.
Emulation is top-notch, and they both work out of the box with your modern tellies. No expensive FrameMeister required. The only downside of the Pi is that Retro Flag haven't made a PC Engine case to match their SNES or Mega Drive cases.
Jerks.
By the way, Justin, is this finally the episode you're eating your PC Engine? No, it is not. We are not that desperate yet.
That'll be a special.
Yeah, that'll be the we're out of content. Justin has to eat something. I do also want to take a minute. We're going to be talking a lot about our good friend and Discord denizen, Keith Courage.
Yes. Which is not his real name.
It's not his real name. But that's what he's known as in Discord.
Yes.
And I do want to give an acknowledgement of Keith's contributions, because we're going to be referencing his data and pointing people his direction multiple times during the show.
Right.
And that's because, one, he is the person who did all of the mod work on your Turbo and sold me and subsequently multiple times modded my PC Engine. So he is a person whose work we stand by and trust to do said work.
He also repaired my my Turbo CD before he modded any of my consoles. I had reached out to him to fix my Turbo CD when it was not reading when the gears had dissolved. So I can definitely stand by his work.
Because whenever you're into a weird console like the PC Engine, you have to have a guy for it. You have a PC Engine guy, and you're like, that's my PC Engine guy. When I need a PC Engine thing, I go to my guy for it.
Yep.
And he graciously shared a ton of data and prices with us that he's tracked directly from eBay and Facebook groups. So these prices might take a little bit of digging to find if you're just the kind of person that wants to hit buy it now on the first hit on eBay.
Right.
But we do trust that the numbers in this show, as of record date of September 4th, 2020, are realistically represented. But just to kind of explain who Keith is, why we're going to be pointing you Keith's way, and why we're referencing his data for a lot of these prices. Because when you go on eBay, like anyone knows, if you search for anything immediately, you're like, oh, it's $10,000. Never mind, it's $3. Never mind, it's $400. I don't know.
Right. The truth is, it's all those things.
And also a note on the format. This is a new format we're trying. We've been doing lots of new formats lately, and this is one that I'm very excited about because it's specifically... I like talking about how to do things on a budget because I do spend a lot of time thinking about it myself.
And then you spend way beyond that.
That's true, but it's important to have a budget,
right?
so that you can shame yourself later. And I do want to start with explaining kind of the weirdest thing about the PC Engine and TurboGrafx line, and what I think is the most confusing thing about this particular hardware, which is their system cards.
Yeah.
And by me start with it, I mean I'm going to make Saturn explain all of the different system cards for the Turbo CD and PC Engine CD.
Yeah, so again, this is just for the CD-ROM systems. This is your BIOS that is necessary for it to be able to read discs. So it comes in three main varieties. Your first variety is the System Card 1 or 2, which came with the stock units. I believe the System Card 1 came with the PC Engine CD. Later variants either came with a System Card 2 or they sold it in stores in Japan. And then the Turbo CD, the American one, always came with System Card 2. Someone may be able to correct me on that. And I'm sure there are some games that work with System Card 2 and not with 1, but I've never encountered one, and I have to assume they're Japan only.
Yeah.
But these cards basically just let you play CD games on your...
Right. It's your boot disc for your CD add-on, because again, the CD was a later add-on to this system.
Right. And if you don't have a system card in there, it doesn't know that you want to use the CD-ROM, so it doesn't think to look for it, so nothing will load. So your basic one, if it wasn't bundled with your hardware that you purchase, the basic system card sells for about $30 to $50. So it's not exorbitant, but it's not nearly as cheap as it should be for something that was bundled with it.
For something that came with every single CD-ROM add-on.
Exactly. Then you have the Super System Card, or the System Card 3.0. And that's what allowed the original PC Engine CD or the TurboGrafx CD in the US to play Super CD-ROM games. Now, the Turbo Duo or the other Duo systems, as well as the Super CD-ROM attachment that they released in Japan, will play these games without this card. They don't need any specific system card to play CD games. But the original model TurboGrafx or PC Engine need this card to have extra RAM to be able to play any Super CD-ROM games. The Japanese version of the Super System card tends to sell for between $30 and $50, which is pretty much the same as the standard system cards. There's no reason to get that. However, if your system can't play Japanese games, if it's an unmodded US system, the US version of the Super System card tends to sell for about $300 and up. So it's pretty ludicrous to even consider it.
Oh, yeah.
The last time I spent time looking for it, and I spent years looking for a US Super System card. It was around $100, give or take. And at that point,
which is still exorbitant.
Yeah, at that point I was like, there's no way I'm buying that. However, importing brand new sealed arcade cards, which I'm about to get to, was like $30. So I just decided I'd buy that and an import adapter for my TurboGrafx, and I used that for years, and it worked fine. So then on to the arcade card. The arcade card allows you to play arcade CD-ROM games, which there's a handful of. They're really late releases for the console, and they look pretty impressive, but you won't need it for most games. So
weren't most of them Neo Geo ports?
A lot of them were ports from the Neo Geo. There was a couple of games that weren't, but it's still very little of the system's library.
I feel like the big arcade card game that everyone talks about is Sapphire, which is a really great shmup, very visually impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And out of the list of arcade card games that require the arcade card that I looked at, Sapphire was the only one that I would even be like, yeah, I'd like to play that. Everything else, I was like, I don't care.
Right. Yeah, I've played around with several of the Neo Geo ports on there, and they're impressive for an 8-bit console.
Right.
But, as mentioned in the listener feedback, the Neo Geo was already being sold for home use at the time that the TurboGrafx was really getting any notoriety.
And there are other and probably better ways to play Neo Geo games today.
Yeah, in 2020, certainly. But the arcade card comes in two varieties of its own. So you have the Arcade Card Pro, which is what works on the original PC Engine CD-ROM or with an adapter or mod on the US TurboGrafx CD-ROM. And it works as both a Super System card or a System Card 3, as well as an arcade system card, because it has the extra RAM that the Super System card had and the extra RAM that the arcade card has and everything built into one card. These days, it's selling for between $130 and $300, depending on its condition. Which is pretty expensive for something that isn't really necessary for most games.
Right.
Then you have the Arcade Card Duo, which is the same, but it doesn't have that extra RAM that lets it work as a Super System card. And so because of that, it only works on the Duo family of consoles, as well as the hardware Super CD-ROM.
Because they have the RAM built in.
Exactly. The RAM is built into those. But it will allow them to play arcade games. And it sells for just under $100, which still feels pretty ridiculous for how few games you get out of the arcade card. I have a hard time not just telling people emulate those.
Right. So basically, if you're wanting to get into the system, you've got your Turbo, which plays your regular games, which come on Hue cards.
Right.
You've got your CD-ROM add-on that you need some type of CD-ROM card to boot CD-ROM games. Let's go through the actual hardware variations and their approximate costs, and then we're going to go through kind of mods and modern innovations, and then we're going to start going by budget category, where you might go with all of this information that you've now taken copious notes on. So first up, you have the TurboGrafx-16 / PC Engine / Core Graphics. That's the original core system that came out.
Right. There was also the Core Graphics 2.
Right.
Which is virtually identical to the Core Graphics, but it's a different color.
And it's just the Core Graphics and the PC Engine are just a little tiny square that plays games. The TurboGrafx-16 is much longer, but it still just plays your Hue card games.
Right. And
the same way you would buy a Nintendo and plug a Nintendo cartridge in. It just does that.
Right. The Turbo and the PC Engine both, by default, only have RF out. The Core Graphics and the Core Graphics 2 both have composite out. So you do get a slightly better picture with the Core Graphics or Core Graphics 2 if you're looking for an unmodified system.
Right. And these sell for currently $90 to $120 plus shipping, which is a price that normally includes a power supply and a controller.
Yeah.
PC Engines and Core Graphics are on the rise a bit in the last year.
Right.
And obviously these are region-locked systems.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not going to be able to play Japanese games on a Turbo or vice versa without a modification,
without
which
a
we'll
mod
talk
or
about
an
later.
adapter.
And then you have the core system with the TurboGrafx CD or PC Engine CD, which is the CD add-on that came out that lets you play new fancy CD games.
Right.
And those are currently selling for around $300. Usually includes a controller and a 2.0 system card. If you're just going on eBay, expect to spend around $300 to just buy it now, a Turbo with a CD or a PC Engine with a CD add-on.
Yeah.
After that, you have the Turbo Duo / PC Engine Duo. The Duo systems came out a little bit later, and they currently sell for $200 to $225. And that slightly lower price is mostly due to the fact that you kind of have to get a recap on these.
Right. Yeah, these used to be the super expensive ones before every price got exorbitant in the last couple decades. But in the early 2000s, getting a Turbo Duo was a premier thing. But back then, that meant it was like $150, $160.
Right.
Whereas a regular TurboGrafx was closer to like $50 or $60.
And as we stated previously, the Duo models do include the System Card 2.0. So that's kind of a nice bonus. Recapped systems sell around the $275 range, depending on what other mods have been done.
Right.
And US Duos use the same controllers as PC Engines, which is not something we even touched on, but the TurboGrafx and its Japanese counterpart use different controller plugs
now you can
for literally no reason.
Right, you can get easy adapters between them, just like you could get easy adapters between the different region Hue cards. Even going back to the 90s, that was an available thing that you could get.
Yeah.
So they're very easy to convert between, but they still made them region locked because they're assholes.
And then you have the PC Engine Duo R and Duo RX, which usually sell for around $250. The upside to these models is that bad caps are not a known issue, but the port pins are known to have issues, and that repair can cost even more than a recap.
Ugh.
Turbo Duos, the American counterpart to the PC Engine Duo R and RX, are usually in the $400 range in working condition. Go ahead.
The one model that we don't have listed there is the Super CD-ROM, which was the second generation CD-ROM attachment, only in Japan. It requires a PC Engine or a Core Graphics to attach to it. It already has the Super System card built in, and it tends to retail for about $200. I don't know what kind of hardware problems those have because I rarely ever hear of anyone buying them.
And then you get into the Turbo Express, which is usually around the $400 range, which is kind of like the Sega Nomad. It's a portable TurboGrafx.
It was many years before the Nomad, though.
True. But in all honesty, I would just avoid these.
Yeah.
They're cool, but they seem to have some cap issues. You can get LCDs installed, but they run in the $150 to $200 range. It can't play CD games because obviously it's a handheld. How are you going to put a CD attachment on it?
They just need to make an adapter.
Is
so
that
you can just drag a turbo CD behind it.
It's just expensive and exorbitant and not a great experience in
sadly.
2020.
Right.
After that, we have mods and modern innovations. There are a few different things that have come out in the TurboGrafx scene that have improved life a little bit.
Right.
First up, you have the SD System 3, which is really cool. It actually attaches to the back of your system,
right,
the same way that you might attach the CD-ROM add-on. And it plays pretty much all Hue card games, and it acts as a CD-ROM add-on. It'll play all CD-ROM games. It only works on Japanese units.
Right.
So you got PC Engine and Core Graphics.
Right. And you just plug an SD card into it, and it'll load whatever is off of there. The
downside is it's $275.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is...
That's a pretty hefty downside.
A little pricey. Yeah. I mean, for $275, you could feasibly get a CD-ROM attachment and an EverDrive, which we're about to talk about.
Right. And
kind of achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
The EverDrive, you can get generics from AliExpress for about $40, generics on US eBay for about $65, and the original EverDrive that you just put an SD card in to play your ROMs is $95 on Amazon.
Now, the generic ones, from my experience, at least from what I've read, seem to only hold 1 or 2 games, whereas the official EverDrive is the one that you can just dump all your Hue cards onto and play them all at once.
More recently, Hyperkin has released a controller which works on the TurboGrafx-16 and the PC Engine and Duo. It includes an adapter to go back and forth between the two different system types.
Nice.
And it's recommended. I've heard good things about it.
Nice.
And it's $30, which is pretty cheap. If I didn't
already have 5 turbo controllers, I would consider one.
And then Keith gave us some of his prices for what he charges for mods to these systems, because like Saturn said, they are region locked.
Right.
They only include 1 controller port. Most of them are RF. The better units are composite only.
Right. We didn't even mention that if you want to play multiplayer, you have to buy a multi-tap.
True.
There's no second controller port on any PC Engine or TurboGrafx.
So let's talk mods. These are just Keith's prices. For an S-Video mod, he charges $29, which is what I have on mine, and S-Video on it. Looks good.
Yeah.
You can get an RGB amp install for $68, $88 if you want it to come with a SCART cable, and it is compatible with Retro Gaming Cables' RAD 2X cables.
Yep.
And Region Mods, he charges $65. And most Region Mods that I've seen, they have a little switch on the side, and you can toggle between Japanese and North American models.
Yeah. Yeah, he RGB modded mine and Region modded it, and it works just excellently. I've been very, very happy with it.
As far as potential hidden costs, CD-ROM gear replacements for briefcase-style PC Engine and TurboGrafx CD units are something you're going to have to deal with. The gears inside of the CD-ROM units wear down over time, and the teeth break off.
Well, it's not just that. They're made out of that same shitty plastic that like Super NES shells are made out of, where they turn yellow over time. And once they turn yellow, they get really brittle. And if you haven't played it for a while, the next time it tries to play it, when it starts spinning, it's just going to rip all of its own teeth off.
You've got having to recap specifically the Duo models.
Right.
And you've got the possibility of needing upscalers and special cables depending on your TV and the video output mods you do or don't pay for.
Right.
If you're just plugging composite into a TV that only has HDMI, then you're going to need something to go between them.
Right. Unless you just don't care about lag.
Right. Or if you're, I've seen a lot of TVs that don't even have component or composite at all anymore, and you just have to, you have to get something.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, you can still only play composite if you're on either a Core Graphics or a CD-based system, because those original model PCs and TurboGrafx only had RF, and that looks even worse on a modern TV.
And then you have games, and we're not going to talk a ton about games, and we'll get into why in the recommendations. But game prices really do vary. You're going to have the best chances waiting out eBay auctions.
Right.
People tend to list TurboGrafx games for insane prices.
Yep.
And most of the time, they just sit there. There's one copy of Magical Chase that has been on eBay for like $15,000 for years.
For
that Saturn and
5 years.
Saturn and I have been joking about for years, and it will never sell.
No.
But do keep in mind, and this is an important note, because I know we've been talking about Japanese and American and going back and forth these different systems.
Right.
And it's because the American versions, the TurboGrafx versions of things, tend to cost more.
Right.
And they tend to cost usually a lot more, especially the games.
Yeah. Sometimes 4 or 5 times more, if not more than that.
The system in the US was not very successful.
Right.
So there's just a lot less of them floating around.
And late in the system's life, it got to the point where you could only get games or accessories from TurboZone Direct, which was a company that was a mail order company, and it was the only way you could get anything for the system. And some of the later releases, so far as I know, only went to TurboZone Direct. If they were in any store, it was incredibly limited. And I have read articles from TurboZone where they mentioned that some of their last stock that they couldn't even clear out at clearance prices as they were going out of business was just steamrolled. It was just destroyed. So so much of the games that were made late in the system's life just don't exist anymore. So they're very, very hard to come by.
So let's kind of have a recap, because I know we basically just read a huge list of confusing hardware variants and prices. And you're probably sitting there going, Justin, I still have no fucking idea what a TurboGrafx is or what I should buy.
The short end is get a Genesis.
Hold on, because we're going to do the recommendations by price point. Right. But again, you've got the base unit. In America, it was a TurboGrafx. In Japan, it was a PC Engine. Right. It plays your HuCard games. That's it. You can buy a CD-ROM add-on. It is region locked. It has one controller port, and it is probably RF only.
Yes.
You can buy a CD-ROM add-on to play CD-ROM games,
which are not region-locked.
There are also super CD-ROM games and arcade CD-ROM games that require special boot HuCards to boot those games.
Right.
You probably want to look at recapping, fixing gears, and probably modding these systems before you buy them.
Right.
You also want to be aware of what output or what input rather you're plugging into on your television, what upscalers you might need. And if you want other people that are going to play with you, you need extra controllers and a multi-tap.
Right.
If you get one of the Duo systems, make sure you get it modded when you buy it. And because I know a lot of people, myself included, when I get into a new system, I buy the system and then I worry about the rest later. With these, people might not realize that the PC Engine is an old system. It came out a long time ago.
In 1987, 33 years ago.
And they're old.
Yeah.
Even the CD-ROM add-on came out in 89?
Yes.
That is tremendously early for a CD-ROM unit.
Yes.
And we didn't know how to make good CD-ROM devices until later on. Now, once they've been modded, they're pretty darn reliable because we use modern parts for them and we know where the faults and the weak points are. But the TurboGrafx and the PC Engine, especially if you're getting the CD-ROM add-on, which you should because the CD-ROM library is, in my opinion, as impressive, if not more impressive, than the HuCard library on the system.
Yeah.
Then just plan to have someone take a look at them and get them up to speed before you jump in on that.
Right.
Just straight up plan for it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go recommendations by price point. And I want to start with the budget of, I have unlimited money and am likely insane.
Right.
This is if you are absolutely bananas for the PC Engine and the TurboGrafx, and you just want to go hardcore and get everything, all original hardware, everything up to speed. So I would personally recommend a recapped PC Engine Duo, which is going to be $210 plus shipping. I would recommend a controller, which is going to be $30. I'd recommend getting a 6-button controller because why not?
Because you want to play Street Fighter
supported
2.
it, which is about $60.
Yeah.
A region mod for $65.
Yeah.
An RGB mod for $88.
Right.
A RAD2X cable to plug it up to your modern television for $60. A multi-tap so you can play with your friend. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you want to get an arcade CD card, which is going to be around $50.
Or more.
Yeah. And a stack of burnable CDRs because why not burn some games? Again, the CD-ROM drive on this unit has no copy protection. You can just burn them.
Yep.
For a final total of roughly $650 with shipping before games.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to say, don't do this. Just, it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
There are better ways.
Right.
I promise you. I didn't include an EverDrive in my price figuring because I figured if you're going this hardcore, then you're probably going to buy original HuCards.
Right.
And this would be a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I really should have thrown in like a PVM for $300 or $400 and an EverDrive, and that would be an awesome experience.
And also a friend to play your games with you.
Yeah, just hire a friend. It would be really cool. But I can't recommend this method for any but the most hardcore, dedicated fans. There are much cheaper ways to experience this system that are still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it feels like we've unfortunately passed a threshold with the Turbo library and the PC Engine library where the price of the hardware and the software and the accessories have gone past that peak where it's still rational for a new person to enter original hardware, original everything, and expect to get the maximal experience without having a ton of disposable income.
True. Our next category down, and again, I don't know if I made it clear. For my budget estimations, I'm using Keith's prices. He usually has a lot of different models of stuff available, and we'll refer you to him at the end of the show if you do want to get in touch with him to buy a PC Engine because he sells them. They're available.
Yeah, he frequently has some that he has just already modded, which is great.
I'm looking at a $400 or less budget. Mm-hmm. Which is, that's kind of like new console cost territory. Right. That's reasonable. Like people pay that much for their Xbox One X's and their PlayStation 4 Pros and whatnot. So I would say this isn't outrageously expensive for a brand new video game console. Right. So first up, a recapped. No, not cheap. Yeah. First up, a recapped PC Engine Duo.
Right.
for
we started the last one.
A controller for $30, an S-Video mod for $29, a stack of CDRs for $10, a region mod so you can play stuff from wherever for $65, a knockoff EverDrive for $40, and you're pretty much off to the races. Yeah. You're running on S-Video, so you may need to throw in an upscaler there.
Right.
But you're looking at...
Most TVs these days do not have S-Video anymore.
Do not. But if you have an older TV sitting around, which a lot of us do, it might take S-Videos. Yeah. A lot of my flat panels have S-Videos, the ones from 6-7 years ago. Right. For a final total of $384. So with this setup, you can play almost all original games, albeit in pirated form, on your burned CDs and your knockoff EverDrive. Yeah. I will say S-Video looks just fine for this system. There have been some recent innovations on this mod that make for an even cleaner signal than previous versions of the S-Video mod.
Yeah, with both the region mod and the Duo, you've got almost the entire library available to you. You're only missing the arcade games.
Which, again, the only one really that I would be like, yeah, you should play that is Sapphire.
Right.
And although, technically, I think, couldn't your knockoff EverDrive work as a arcade card?
I don't believe so.
Oh yeah, I don't think it can.
It has to have that
that's
RAM
correct.
As well.
I'm sorry.
I want to say that the EverDrive can emulate the System Card 3 because it has the RAM, but I don't know if it can emulate the arcade card. I can't speak to the knockoff EverDrives at all.
Keith put it in his notes when he sent it to me. He's probably yelling at his phone. I told you. I forgot.
But I also don't know if there are any games that the knockoff EverDrives can't play. I mean,
I've yet to run into one because I do have one.
I know that it can play most of the notable games on the system. So you're going to be able to play most anything that you want to play in that price point.
And I will say, I feel like there's a fixation in the retro game community on RGB.
Right.
And S-Video looks great.
Yeah.
It looks tremendous. The jump from, and we've said it before, the jump from composite to S-Video, in my opinion, is bigger and better than the jump from S-Video, good S-Video, to component or RGB.
I would agree with that if it weren't for progressive scan.
That's true.
Yeah, on consoles that support it.
So S-Video is a fine connector for this. I do also kind of want to make a note that the Mr. FPGA system is in this price range and alleges to play both HuCard and CD-ROM games as a more recent development.
Right.
And while I would personally go the original hardware route at this price point, it could be a much more compelling option for people looking for something that plays close to the original hardware, at least closer than something like a Raspberry Pi, but does offer a similar level of versatility as a Raspberry Pi.
And you could theoretically use it as something else as well if you decide.
Right, for all kinds of systems. Right. So the only reason it's not more of a discussion is because neither of us own or have used one at this point.
Yeah.
But it is in this form. It's around, last I priced it around $300 for like the full Mr. setup. If you're getting like the USB hub and all the RAM expansion and the big daddy one.
And then you could just jam in there as well one of those hoary PC Engine mini controllers, which feel authentic to an original PC Engine controller.
Oh, yeah.
And then you could just use that on there and play your PC Engine games.
In the $100 or less price point, I do very much, this is kind of my main recommendation.
Right, yeah.
And I do want to say that it is pending a restock, which has been kind of happening off and on lately.
Off and on.
When I wrote that, we had been patiently waiting, but pending a restock, the PC Engine, TurboGrafx, and CoreGrafx mini systems are a wonderful device that comes packed with lots of really great games. There were some minor hardware issues with some of the early units, but everyone I know has had those issues taken care of via Amazon.
Right.
And I do maintain... Yeah, it's true. Well, granted, it came from Amazon Japan, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
It is just a really great mini console. Yeah. If you can spring an extra $30 for a total of $130 for the 8BitDo controller, it's also a great controller. Yeah. I have a working modded PC Engine, and honestly, I play my mini when I'm in a PC Engine mood.
I do love my little CoreGrafx Mini. I have my CoreGrafx Mini plugged into my big TV, and I have my RGB modded Turbo CD plugged into the PVM that you brought over here. And I'll go back and forth between them, but I have to say, I don't know that I love the 8BitDo controller as much as you do.
Really,
I like it, but I don't love it.
It's not my favorite one they've done.
Yeah.
But I still maintain it's a really good one.
I prefer the controller that came with it just because, one, it comes with a very long cable.
Yeah, at least a 12-foot.
Yeah, compared to the like 2-foot cable that comes on the stock TurboGrafx controller if you get an original unit. So
I know that.
Yeah, it's nice to actually have some slack there when playing it. But if you do need wireless because of the setup of your environment, then the 8BitDo controller is definitely a viable option.
Yeah. I will say, basically, if you're saying, hey, I have a $100 bill and some change so that I can pay for tax
and shipping or whatever,
I want to get into the PC Engine, the very first thing I would say to you in response is get the Mini. If it's in stock, just get the Mini. If it's not in stock, wait a few weeks, and if it doesn't come back in stock, figure something else out.
Right.
But with hacks on the horizon from the Mod My Classic team that our listener write-ins were talking about, it's only gonna get better.
Oh yeah.
So it is the way to go if you have $100 and you want a PC Engine that you can just plug in and start playing video games on. Right. It's a great system.
Now, if you already have another Mini, an NES or Super NES or Genesis, I do believe that the RetroArch builds on them can play PC Engine games as well.
It can,
if you prefer to go that route. But I like having a regular controller.
Also, you have the Raspberry Pi, which we've talked about many, many, many times on the show. But yeah, I don't know if you noticed.
I must have forgotten.
A Pi 3B Plus with a controller, a case, an SD card, and a power supply is going to run you about $90 to $110.
Right.
And this is a great alternative if Konami continues to fuck up the mini console restocks.
I blame Amazon more than Konami at this point.
At this point, I just like blaming them both. Because why not?
Yeah.
The Pi will run most games the system has to offer.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you have appropriate system card images, which are a little weird to get in place, but it works.
Yeah.
The downside is that this option, as stated in our RetroPie 101 and 102 episodes, does require some work and some know-how. And I have had kind of some issues getting my system card images all working. But once you've got it all set up, it runs great. It's extremely versatile, and it's all for about $100 bill.
Oh yeah, and now it can sometimes be a pain to get good rips of CD games, though.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I would also recommend in the under $100 area, the Wii can still be obtained for under $100. Sometimes it'll even come with a couple of Wiimotes at that price point. And it might not be the optimal way to play TurboGrafx games, but a hacked Wii has access to the Wii port of Mendefin, which can play just about every TurboGrafx or PC Engine game you throw at it. And there were a ton of PC Engine and TurboGrafx Virtual Console games released for the Wii, which you can't legally obtain anymore if you didn't already purchase them, but they are available. And if you mix match some Wiimotes and some GameCube controllers, you can even play Bomberman 5-player just like on the original hardware, which is nice.
There you go. And also the Wii plays Wii and GameCube games.
That's true. There's that, but that's not as important.
Not for our purposes tonight, no. So $100 or less, the Mini, Raspberry Pi, or just a hacked Wii. All very good options. Obviously, again, I think we both recommend the Mini foremost among those, but they're all three equally viable options. At the $50 or less price point, I'd say either get a Hyperkin 8BitDo or Hori USB TurboGrafx PC Engine controller.
Right.
Which are going to be in the $25 to $50 range, depending on how you go about it.
Sure.
You could, if I had Magic Engine in here, and then I got my RetroArch working, so I don't even want to recommend Magic Engine. It's great software, but RetroArch with Beetle PCE, which I've had more luck with than the Beetle PCE Fast
core. Yeah.
Runs great. So it's cheap enough to just pick up, like one of the Hori USB TurboGrafx controllers works great in RetroArch. I had mine plugged up the other day playing PC Engine games.
Yeah.
The turbo switches on it seem to be real physical turbo switches tied to the controller's hardware, so you don't need to map anything weird to get those working.
Right. Yeah,
and if you're,
I do appreciate that finally we do have good emulation through something like RetroArch or Mendefin or whatever, because for a very long time, Magic Engine was the option for
for
viable TurboGrafx emulation. I purchased a copy of Magic Engine over 15 years ago, just because I wanted to be able to play my PC CD games on my computer without having to fight with my TurboGrafx, because that was after my Turbo CD had already gone out, but I didn't realize what its problem was. So I just thought someday it would start working again, and until then I would use Magic Engine. And so it worked amazingly for when it came out and for how little support there was anywhere else on the internet.
Yeah.
But now we have other options.
True.
So I like to support that guy who made it and made it available for all those years, but you don't have to anymore.
True. I will also state, if you're on Android or maybe you just don't have a PC, the Robert Broglia emulator PCE.emu is $3.99, and I've not had any issues playing any games in it. It's a great Android PC Engine emulator, especially if you can get a controller paired with your device.
I think I have it on my Android TV right now.
And then finally, in the $0 budget, if you say, I want to get into PC Engine, but I refuse to spend a dime,
right?
Then as long as you have a computer or an Android device,
right,
then PC Engine and TurboGrafx and PC Engine CD and TurboGrafx CD emulation is in a really good place.
Yep.
And largely works fine with just about any controller you might have lying around, because a lot of people see the Turbo controller and they see the turbo sliders on it and they're like, oh, well, I need that controller with the fancy things. They're not really necessary to enjoy the system.
The original model PC Engine didn't even come with the turbo sliders. That was a later added thing.
And I'm very mad that I don't have one with working turbo switches. I need to get that Hyperkin controller.
Right.
Because a lot of times we talk about systems that are difficult to emulate or frustrating to emulate, like N64. Playing an N64 game without an N64 controller, I would say you're kind of missing a little bit of the original experience. I'm not saying it's better than playing with a modern controller, but if you're looking for authenticity, you're certainly missing out on something in that transition.
Right.
With PC Engine, it's a D-pad and 2 buttons and a start and select button. That's really all you
run
need.
And select button.
Oh, excuse me. So I think you can experience and get the full experience that the PC Engine and the TurboGrafx have to offer for free if you have a computer. You know, if you have a computer and you're interested in TurboGrafx, you probably also have a controller lying around that'll work with it.
And also, anytime that you're dealing with emulators, be it on the Mini or on the Raspberry Pi or on your computer or phone or whatever, you don't need to invest in an arcade card because they all just emulate it. So you can play all the games.
I will. So to recap, if you are an emulation hater and you're like, no, I don't want to play emulated. I'm a collector. I want original hardware. I want the real thing.
Right.
Then $400 or less, you're getting a Duo, a controller, S-Video mod, and with a knockoff EverDrive and a stack of CDs, you can play virtually everything on the system, barring arcade games.
Yeah.
And I think that's not a horrible price point to say, hey, I'm getting a new system that's going to look good on a TV that can somehow take S-Video with maybe a cheap upscaler.
Yeah.
And I can play everything it has to offer except for this small handful of games. That's not a horrible price.
Yeah, because that's a good setup at that point.
Where we initially compared that price point to, the Xbox One X or PS4 Pro or whatever, but those don't come with every game ever made for them.
What?
And in this $400 price point, you could.
Right.
$100 or less, I think, is the sweet spot. I really, really do recommend the Turbo Mini, and barring that, like Saturn said, a hacked Wii or a Pi 3B Plus, if you have the know-how, is a great place to be. You don't have to fuss with arcade cards or any of this stuff, or burning discs or EverDrives or loading ROMs or any of that.
And if you look out there, I am certain that there are pre-made Pi images that specifically cater to TurboGrafx as well. I'm sure they're out there. They have to be.
But then all that said, for $0, if you've got RetroRouter on your computer, go play some Turbo games. You're not missing anything. Yeah. It's as long as you got 2 buttons and a D-pad, that's all you need.
Yeah,
you're in a great spot. Turbo emulation,
keep in mind,
in general, is in a great
spot.
When
it says press run button, you don't have one. So you just have to stop the game right there.
Okay, so if you have an Xbox controller, get yourself a marker and just write run underneath it.
Perfect.
Problemo solved. As far as final thoughts, PC Engine and Turbo Collecting has just kind of gotten nuts.
Yeah.
The games especially the US games anyway, are insanity.
Insane. Especially the later games.
But thankfully, it does kind of seem like there are at least maybe some mini restocks on the horizon, which again is my main recommendation for anyone looking to get into it and have a semi-authentic feeling experience.
Right.
And it's the Turbo and the PC are just, it's a damn fine system with a ton of really fun games. And I would say, regardless of how you choose to check it out, and regardless of your budget,
right?
And if you're like me, where you'll probably start is at $0, and you'll experience a little bit and go, "Oh, I do like this," and you'll jump up to the $50 category and go, "Oh, I still like it," and then you'll jump up to the $400 category and go, "I'm insane, but I still like it."
Right,
and that's a totally fine way to go about it. But do check the system out, because at any price point, you can have a great experience playing great games.
Yep. And I do have to, once again, give you hell, like I do anytime I remember this, which is the first time that I brought my TurboGrafx to your home, and your first reaction is, what the hell is this? Why did you bring this into my home?
What is this dumb thing?
Right. And you had to play it for a little bit, and you got a chance to play some games, and you got a chance to enjoy it. And once you had enjoyed it, then you were sold on the system.
And I will say, it's funny, because when you brought it over, the two games that sold me were Blazing Lasers, which is a great Hue card shmup on the system, and the Godzilla fighting game. And in honor of me getting into the system and enjoying it, and now we're doing this episode, I was like, I'm going to go play some of that Godzilla fighting game that basically convinced me to spend $400 on a PC Engine, which I then did.
And it completely shattered your memories, didn't it?
Sucks ass.
It's not a good game.
It's so... I don't know what I was thinking. It wasn't even like I was a kid. It was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I got into the Turbo in the 90s when it was still the loser system, when it was the one that was not selling. And I didn't start buying most of my TurboGrafx games until the early 2000s, when prices were already going up. But at the time, I was still holding on to a sliver of hope that things were eventually going to drop down, that the demand was going to fall off, and that the few of us crazy people who wanted it could go just pick it up. And that didn't happen yet, at least. Instead,
you keep holding out hope. Maybe one day,
someday I'll get that copy of New Adventure Island. Now, prices I've watched in the last 20 years, the prices continue to climb, not slowly, just exponentially higher and higher and higher, for the hardware, for the accessories, for the controllers, for the games, for everything. So if it is something that you are wanting to get into, I have to recommend sooner than later, because I don't believe there's a bubble anymore. I have a hard time believing that there's a turbo bubble, or that there ever was one, or that there ever will be one again. I feel like they will all dissolve into dust before the prices start really coming down.
Most definitely.
And if you don't have the budget for it, like we said, the Mini is good, a Wii is fine, a Raspberry Pi is fine. Just there's so many great games on the system that I don't want people to miss out on it.
For sure. I do want to give a plug for Keith. He is TurboGrafx fan. That's all one word, and it is spelled just like the TurboGrafx, which is GRAFX.
Right.
You can, on eBay and Facebook, you can find him on both. He wrote in his notes, there are a couple different models of PC Engine that he basically always has in stock, and he's always willing to sell for a reasonable price and mod for you.
Did he mention which models?
He said, I believe it was the PC Engine, the briefcase models with the CD-ROM attachment, the one I have.
Yeah.
I believe he said, I've always got those. They're always in stock. And I think he said he frequently has duos, PC Engine duos.
Nice. Yeah.
Very nice. And so if you do want to get some of this hardware, then he's the person we would both recommend to get in touch with and pick something up from. Because
he's done excellent work for me as far as fixing my systems and everything. And I've just been so delighted with how well my Turbo has worked since I've gotten it back.
And not only did he sell me mine on eBay before I even knew who he was or he even knew who I was. I think it was before I think we might have been doing the show by then.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's at this point provided years worth of technical support for it. So,
what's funny is you bought it from him not realizing it was the same person who I got my system modded from.
No, I did not.
So.
And then a while later, he emailed me and he was like, "Hey, I sold you your PC Engine." And I was like, "Oh, you're the guy that sold me my PC Engine." And he was like, "I listened to the show."
Nice.
At least that's how I remember it. It's been a while.
You also remember Godzilla being good.
This is true. But if you're looking for to get into the hardware, Keith's in our Discord. It's Keith Courage in our Discord. He's TurboGrafx fan on eBay and Facebook. If you want to go through more, legitimate marketplace venues. But yeah, definitely check the system out.
Absolutely.
It can be done affordably and in a way that is very fun and enjoyable. So definitely do that. It feels so weird that we didn't recommend any games, but we didn't have time.
Do you want to recommend some games real quick?
Blazing Lasers and Not Godzilla.
Yeah. There you go.
And Rondo of Blood.
Yeah, Rondo of Blood, Blazing Lasers.
And Salamander.
Yeah, Salamander is excellent shmup.
Devil's Crush.
Yeah, Devil's Crush is good.
No, just go play all of them.
I'm going to throw in Dragon's Curse, which is just Wonder Boy 3, but on Turbo, and that's very good.
Yep.
Also, I am a fan of both Natopia games. Justin has an issue with them. So
as long as I don't have to hear them, I'm okay.
Bonk's okay, I guess.
I love Bonk. I feel like Bonk isn't better than Mario or better than Sonic.
No.
But I feel like Bonk is very representative of the Turbo, especially the Bonk 3.
Yeah, I also like New Adventure Island is a blast as far as
Air Zonk is incredible.
Oh yeah, the Air Zonk game. Well, the first Air Zonk is fun. I don't care for the second one as much.
Yeah. Anyway, go play some TurboGrafx.
Yeah.
If you got a computer or if you're listening on an Android phone, you've already got what you need to have a good time.
Yeah.
Anyway, do stay tuned after the ending theme. Our producer Guy is going to be on the show to talk about probably hockey. He's going to talk about hockey a lot. Apparently, it's hockey season. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week, and as always, let us cling together. Welcome to the after party.
Hey.
It's us with our producer Guy, who I hope is here. Guy, are you there? Are you on the line?
Totally here.
Holy shit, Guy is here.
And I'm here to talk about hockey.
Oh yeah. What's that?
Wow, I was right.
You were absolutely right. Oh my God, my team is winning. We're in the
You have a team?
I have my own personal
you buy 'em,
team that I purchased with my Patreon money.
That's
nice.
incredible. Are they? It seems like they're cheap. Then is what you're
they're
telling
really
me.
cheap.
There's a bunch of teenagers, but their coach was Emilio Estevez, so he's very
Okay,
good.
to be fair, there is a guy who almost bought a hockey team with no money.
What?
He ran a scam where he basically told banks that he had money, so he secured loans from them, and then turned around.
Wait, hold on. I want to pause your story.
Okay.
I can just tell a bank that I have money and they'll believe me?
Right.
Most of them will want proof of the money, but you know,
Right. They wanted proof of the money, which is fine, but apparently he took advantage of a little gap in there, and so he was pre-approved for these loans. And more or less had like television contracts and shit worked out to the point where the NHL was about to sign on the dotted line and give him the money, which would then retroactively give him the money that he had guaranteed the banks he had, right?
Right.
And then the NHL figured out and they banned him from like everything.
I gotta say, if you're the NHL, like you gotta feel extra dumb,
right?
Doing that.
Yeah, no, they changed the way they do anything now. Now they verify things when people say they have money.
What was that guy's first name? Do you know?
I don't remember now.
Can we call him Jerry?
Sure.
Jerry Hockeyton.
Jerry
Jerry
Hockeyton.
Hockeyton.
He almost bought the New York Islanders.
Man, it's a clever guy.
But yeah, so it's the playoffs. The playoffs.
It's the Super Bowl or whatever for hockey.
Yeah, Super Bowl for hockey. The playoffs got delayed because of COVID, right?
Right. That happens.
And so they just started back up. And at the end of this round of playoffs, there will be 4 teams left playing hockey, and the Stars are one of them. And that happened today. They won the 7th game in a best of 7 series in overtime.
Nice.
It's fucking amazing.
Nice. Excellent.
Are you one of those yellers? Do you yell at sports?
Oh my god. Okay, so
that's a yes.
That was a yes,
by the way.
I don't particularly yell.
You yell.
I do talk loudly, and I do get excited. I don't yell critiques at.
I don't know if you know what yelling is. Talking loudly counts as yelling.
Like I will yell, and you know it depends on the game. Fine.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not saying are you like yelling at them like curse words or anything.
No.
I mean, are you one of those like standing
Excited.
up, shouting, excited noises yellers?
Very much so.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Oh my god, I am
Interesting.
so tense when I'm watching a hockey game. It's the worst. I mean, it's great. I enjoy it, but it's like today I was sitting on the bed and I was like sitting up, and it was just this tense thing where they were almost getting scored against.
Right.
And as soon as they just got the puck out of the zone to where it wasn't a danger anymore, like my entire body physically relaxed, and I had to lay down for a second.
I honestly, like, we make fun of sports a lot because we don't know the sports, and people that don't know sports make fun of sports because it's easy and fun.
It makes us feel better about not knowing sports.
Like
That's
I said
true
earlier,
too.
you can't make me mad right now.
But I wish I liked sport. I wish I liked anything as much as my dad hates watching the Cowboys play. You know what I mean? It's like this thing where it's like, I don't even care if it's a good or bad emotion. I just don't have even that much passion in my life in a general sense, much less for a bunch of people I've never met on the TV. Like not in a critical way, but just like I genuinely wish I had that level of extreme passion for watching some guys.
When I was in high school, I had my first like legit girlfriend, and she was a huge hockey fan. Like, was in love with hockey, obsessed with it. And the first time that she came over to my house, I was like, "So what do you want to do?" And she said, "Watch the game. The Stars are playing. We have to watch the game. That's important." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I better learn how this works if I'm going to be dating someone." And my dad was not a hockey fan, so he was like, "Well, watch it in your room." And my mom immediately chimes up with, "But keep the door open if you're going to have a girl in there, because, it's high school."
Right.
And so I'm sitting in there with my girlfriend, and the door's open, and she just starts screaming at the television because something happened that I did not at all catch because the puck was so tiny on my 24-inch
I bet you I guess what it was.
TV.
Someone hit the puck with a stick.
I have a feeling that's what happened, but I didn't know at the time because I had a 24-inch TV and it was very small. But she knew exactly what was going on, and she just started screaming at the TV. I couldn't even tell if she was excited or mad or what, but my dad's walking by my bedroom at the time, and he just looks in, sees her screaming, and slowly shuts my door. And like I think my mom was upset later that my door was shut, but my dad just didn't want to hear her screaming anymore.
Awesome.
Guy, do you do, like, what do you do when hockey time is over? Because there's only hockey for like a little while during the year, right? There's a
4
season.
or 5 months, I think.
It's about, the regular season is 6 months, and then the postseason lasts about 2 months.
Oh, dang.
I'm sorry.
That's a lot
What's
of
a
the year.
postseason?
The regular season, they play for positioning in the playoffs, ranking.
Yeah, for the hockey Super Bowl, as we've established.
Yeah.
Which is 4 rounds of hockey, of teams playing other teams.
Okay.
And that happens after the regular season, so it's called the postseason.
So they're not playing for anything. It's just for funsies after that.
No. That's when they're playing for the hockey Super Bowl.
Oh, so like the season is where they decide who's gonna play.
Who's going to play in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I see. When it's not hockey season, do you do another sport, or are you just like, no, I just patiently wait for hockey to come back?
I more or less patiently wait for hockey because hockey season it overlaps with football season a bit. I'm not into baseball, which is like the summer sport. So
My dad later in his life got into baseball just so he would have sports to watch in the summer.
But I also have a lot of extra free time in the summer for because there's no hockey. It's nice.
Right.
Yeah. It's I just can't. We were talking in the chat today, and you said something. The game is 3 hours long, and that was because I know you also watch wrestling.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Oh,
I didn't know you quit. Like you're like, no, I quit cold turkey, or you're just like, oh, I'm not interested right now.
I'm just not interested right now, and then I don't like the WWE because their business practices are gross.
that's
Yeah,
fair.
but I mean, there's like other wrestlings you could watch.
Sure, there are, but I'm just not into wrestling right now. I don't know.
That's
fair.
fine. Well, no, I mean, I was trying to get around to where you like, no, I quit watching. I am done watching wrestling, or was it just like I'm bored? I'm gonna quit for a while. You know, you know.
Yeah, I'm open to it again in the
Hobbies.
future. I haven't sworn off of wrestling for some reason.
What if Saturn and I wrestled each other? Would you watch that?
I wouldn't.
I mean, it'd be
You can
fun.
close your eyes, Saturn.
Oh shit!
I
It wouldn't last very long.
I'm assuming that you're both professionally trained for at least a couple weeks, though. Or are you just going to actually legitimately try and throw each other around?
Where's the fun in that?
Either one is kind of fun, but you know.
I think if you're not trained, it's just called getting in a fight. I think that's.
Then you'll be the real retro warriors.
I'm gonna be like, Bad News is great. You're gonna be like, it sucks, and then we're gonna start fighting.
I feel like 269 episodes we've built up to that joke.
All right, new producer idea: a cartoon where you guys are wrestlers called the Real Retro Warriors.
It's like the real Ghostbusters, but us.
Yes.
It's fascinating to me that so like there was a point in your life where you were watching all of the wrestling and all of the hockey in a given week. Mm-hmm. Isn't that like a couple dozen hours of television?
Yeah, it's what I do instead of play games.
Man, that just like I'm not trying to. I know it always sounds like I'm just trying to make fun of you, and I swear to God I'm not. It's just a tremendous amount of dedication to watching people do a sport, and I just like I'll watch football for like an inning, and then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go do something else. Tell me who's winning later. I guess I don't actually care.
I don't even know sports, and I was very amused by an inning of football.
Mm-hmm. I can watch it for a bit.
Yeah. I've never been a sports fan, but I know enough sports fans that I know that me not enjoying sitting down for an entire game is the exception to the rule. Which
I was in Vegas for the soccer Super Bowl. What's it called?
the World Cup.
The World Cup. I was in Vegas for the World Cup, and that was insanity.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know it was the World Cup. We showed up, and I was like, "What's happening?" Every TV in the entirety of the city was playing the same thing, and the whole city would scream at the same time. It was scary.
We have a lot of people at my office who are from other countries, and they're just temporarily here working. And anytime it is World Cup season, they all have their phones out, and they are all watching the World Cup. And I'll be able to walk around the building, and everybody's got their headsets on, and they're quietly cheering or jeering, depending on who is doing what. But it's a thing.
Yeah, dude, the World Cup.
Guy, what were you saying? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is most definitely. Like I'm not trying to diminish it. It's just I didn't know how big of a deal the World Cup was until I went to Vegas during the World Cup, and it was bonkers. So hockey, huh?
Yeah, no, I don't remember what I was saying other than I like hockey. No, I was just really excited. I don't know. Yeah. It's a good sports day.
That's good.
Man, I don't know.
Good sports days are better than bad sports days.
I remember what I was going to say. I haven't really done anything with Saturn, I suppose, but you have been very respectful of me being like, no, I'm not going to do that because hockey is important right now.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, I get it. You got hobbies. I don't have any hobbies that are based on any sort of timing.
Yeah, me either.
Really, everything I have can be easily rescheduled.
Yeah, except our Wednesday thing,
day.
you know.
True, but we could easily be like, hey, we're not playing D&D this week, or let's move it to tomorrow, or what? It's easy enough to.
Yeah, right now I'm doing
move
the thing
that
where I'm
around.
hoping they schedule games on not Wednesday. That would just make my life better.
I've been to 2 hockey games in my time. I went to 1 Dallas Stars game, and I hated every single solitary second of it. Because you don't realize how teeny tiny hockey stadium, the not the stadium, but the floor they play on, ring. I don't know. The hockey, you don't realize how tiny the hockey field is. It's tiny, and the puck is tiny, and you're way up in the nosebleeds.
I think they call it a hockey arena.
Yeah, you can't even see what's going on in the hockey arena.
And
then I went to
you guys to a hockey game in one of these years after all this stuff. Right. God, that's so depressing. Anyway,
for the hockey arena.
Yeah, well, we'll take you guys to a game to where you can see what's going on, and then maybe it'll be a little more enjoyable.
Like, if I was down up front, it's a lot of excitement. I'd probably be engaged and excited. Like, it's dudes like punching each other and hitting things with sticks, and they all have razor blades strapped to their feet. Like, that's exciting to me. Yeah. It's like Thunderdome.
Plus, you can see the Zamboni real well.
This is true. And I can finally get a good feel for how to operate one.
I just see you like stroking your beard by the glass, going, I see. Yes.
Everyone else is cheering, and I'm just like, "Where's the Zamboni?
This is Zam bullshit."
Slamming on the glass. I also went
this
to
is Zam bullshit.
Yeah.
I also went to a I don't know the term. I don't know if it's the right term in sports or whatever, but like not like semi-pro. Like it was at a stadium. Mm-hmm. It was a Fort Worth team.
Oh, the Brahmas.
But I went to one of those games.
Yeah.
And that was 1,000,000 times more fun than going to see the Dallas Stars.
I went to high school with a guy who, while we were in high school, got a tryout for them and played like a game or two for them at one point.
That's cool. It was a lot more fun. One, there was nobody else there, so you're like by yourself. You can eat all the chili dogs you want, and they're cheaper than at regular stadiums. So that's great. And you can walk around and see stuff and walk up front, and it's very loud. You don't realize how loud hockey is when there's not like 90 million screaming people in the room.
Oh yeah,
very loud.
It's great. Well, now they're doing
clack.
Like they don't have crowds right now, right? Because they're
right.
Basically, they're in one arena, and there's like 4 hotels or something connected to it that they've got like gerbil tunnels on, so that they can have like this isolated, hockey players only kind of thing, right?
I get what you were saying, but I just imagine that when they go to the room, it's a little nest of like pine shavings, and they got a little water bottle and a little wheel they run in, if, like actual gerbils.
If they could play the game inside of little gerbil balls, I would watch that.
That'd be less fun.
American Gladiators, sir.
I know. I love American Gladiators.
Every time Saturn goes, if they could do blank, he just describes a scene from American Gladiators.
No, but like the gerbil balls, but with hockey sticks sticking out of one side. So they have to constantly roll back around till the hockey stick is near the ground again.
I don't even know
Super
how you
Monkey
would do
Ball?
because eventually it would just snap off and hit the bottom, right?
Yeah, that would suck.
Well,
you got to go roll off and get a new stick.
You could make a series of like rubber flippers that stick out all over it that bend under the pressure of the ball, and then you have to run it into the puck really hard.
I like all this. This all sounds excellent.
Do hockey players ever retire and go play that game where they have to clean the ice really fast in front of a brick?
Curling?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It doesn't feel like it has a heavy overlap there.
Yeah,
I don't know. They're moving a thing around on the ice, and I just could imagine someone be like, "Oh, I was playing hockey, and I got injured, and now I do the cleaning game where you clean for the
you
brick." You
still have to be pretty fast for curling, don't you?
But you also don't have to get punched in the face.
I don't know that the hockey skill tree really meshes well with the curling skill tree.
Are they on skates in curling? I didn't think they skated in curling.
No, but they're on ice.
Yeah, I think they just walk on the ice.
I mean, it's pretty close.
Ice is literally the only connection between the two.
And they have little sticks.
Oh, they do have sticks. He's not wrong.
Yeah, ice and sticks.
And really,
and you could really say that the brick is just a big puck.
Giant stone puck.
It's just a big old puck.
See?
I never had heard of curling once until I played the minigame in WarioWare. And I just thought it was some dumb thing that the game made up until somebody mentioned that it was at the Olympics every fucking year, and I just never noticed.
I always forget it's called curling, but I knew of it because for whatever reason, I watched the Olympics. I don't know why.
I never watched the Olympics.
I just feel compelled to do so, I guess. I'm just like, it's the best of the world, and I watch it, and I'm like, still bored. That's why. What's next?
Yeah.
I think what it is because like every 10 minutes, they're like, now we're going to do figure skating. Now they're going to come over here and swim. Now these guys are going to wrestle. Like, it's fun. It's like a variety show. Like if in the middle of a hockey game, they were like busted out into a football game, and then they like busted out into a tennis match, like I'd watch that.
That sounds fun. Bowling in the intermission.
Yeah.
Do they?
It'd be great if there was like tennis on the hockey rink during the game.
Yeah, like
they just throw some rackets out there and they're like, go!
Every so often they'll set up like giant oversized bowling pins, and then they'll put a person in a trash can lid and like with a one of those slingshots, like stretched across the ice, and they'll slingshot.
No, I don't know. Explain the slingshot to me.
Like a giant person-sized slingshot.
Yeah, that sounds pretty great. And you just ride.
Yeah, I know from watching Looney Tunes.
You've never seen those?
I'm aware of the concept of a giant person-sized slingshot.
Okay, like the slingshot they use for the watermelons or whatever in those shows?
Yeah.
It's like that, but bigger.
What?
Nice.
What are you talking about?
Justin's never actually seen a rubber band. This is all new to him.
Who's slingshotting watermelons?
You've never seen that gif of that lady that's like slingshot a watermelon and it goes right back into her face? It's like the greatest.
No, that was really good. No, there's been several competition variety shows. I don't think Wipeout's done it,
like
but
American
like
Gladiators
that have had where you have to launch a watermelon at a target. I wouldn't be surprised if Double Dare did it at one point.
I didn't watch Double Dare. I was too young.
How dare you?
I missed it.
How double dare you? God damn it.
God damn it. Guy, what else you got for us?
He's going to take the physical challenge.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, I don't think physical challenge works in podcast format. And socially distanced. For that
right.
True.
I don't know. I'm pretty preoccupied with hockey right now. That's all I brought.
Yeah. Your hockey.
What do you do?
I guess a little plug for my YouTube thing.
Oh, yeah. You just finished Paper Mario.
I just finished Paper Mario.
Nice.
What's up?
How many parts was that? How many different episodes was your Paper Mario playthrough?
49, I believe.
Oof. Holy cow, you couldn't do one more for an even 50?
I guess not.
And just replay the credits again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'll have to do. I don't know. But
now, it didn't bother you before, but now that I said it, you're like, shit, it does bother me.
It does. So, yeah, it's somewhere around a 25-hour game. It's good, man. I enjoyed it.
Episode 50 will just be you talking about how much you wish there was an episode 50.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Maybe. I mean, okay, so now that it's complete, if I do add more episodes, there'll be bonus episodes to collect, like the collectible stuff in the game.
Right.
Right.
There you go.
So it's possible. But
Good. Now you should say the name of your YouTube channel though, because you didn't say that part.
Oh, it's Sidetail Studios.
There you go.
That is.
Is it just youtube.com/? Do you have the unique slug, or is it just
I don't. You gotta
search
Google
for
Sidetail Studios?
Like you're the only one if you search for it.
What?
I said you're the only one that's going to come up if you search for it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I imagine you and a bunch of Dune videos.
I don't know. Somebody could be really into fucking Roman cryptology.
Also possible. Yeah. Unlikely. You'll probably be the first entry. I think I was going to say we might have a link in the show notes, but I don't think I put one regularly, but I'll try to remember and put one in there so people can go watch your YouTube videos.
Oh man, I would appreciate that. That's nice.
Nice.
Well, then I'll do it.
Yay. But yeah, so
anyway,
coming up next is Avengers. That's what I'm working on.
Very nice.
Oh yeah, that thing came out.
Let me know how that is, because when it drops in price a lot, I'm thinking about picking it up.
Yeah, we'll do, man.
Yeah.
If they do like a complete, well, now who put that out?
Square Enix.
Square Enix.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. If they did, well, like I'm thinking like a year from now when they do like the complete edition or whatever,
Right,
and then it's like $40. Like I'd go in on that, a complete edition for $40. Yeah,
I'd go for the original if it's like 20 or 30.
Yeah, it's pretty fun so far. It's paced kind of like the PS4 Spider-Man.
Yeah. Which I enjoyed that, so that could go good.
I played none of the PS4 exclusives, and I owned one the whole time it was out.
I think
played zero of them.
The only PS4 exclusive games I can think of off the top of my head that I played were Spider-Man and Persona 5.
Yeah, played neither.
Oh wait,
those.
Persona 5's on PS3.
Yep.
So just Spider-Man.
Cool. Guy, thanks for being our producer. Thanks for coming by and informing us about hockey.
Hockey's.
You're welcome.
We were so concerned.
That's what I'm here for.
And next year, you'll have to educate us about hockey again because we'll have forgotten.
We'll forget.
You know what? You were significantly less ignorant about hockey this time.
Hey, maybe we're remembering some.
We did it!
Yay.
Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you later. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.